So way back in the 14th century, one woman had this incredible, world-shaking divine vision. And what's amazing is how she managed to take this personal, kind of scary experience and translate it for everyone, using a very popular, miraculous image of her time. It's a story about turning fear into hope, and honestly, it's a message that still hits home today.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1373, and this young, deeply religious woman, we know her now as Julian of Norwich, she prayed for three things. And they are, well, they're pretty intense. First, she wanted to see and truly understand Christ's suffering, like a vivid vision of it. Second, she asked for an illness so severe it would almost kill her. And third, she prayed for what she called 3 wounds from God, which were really about feeling true sorrow, deep compassion, and this overwhelming desire to be closer to God.
And you know what? She actually got her wish. When she was 30, she got so sick that everyone thought she was done for. A priest even came to give her the last rites. But right there, on what she thought was her deathbed, something else happened entirely. She didn't die. Instead, she was flooded with this series of powerful divine visions.
And we're not talking about just 1 or 2 visions. She had 16 of them. 16 distinct showings, she called them. Over the course of hours, these incredible revelations just kept coming, and they would literally shape the rest of her life's work. This was no fleeting dream, you know? This was a deep, totally overwhelming mystical experience.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting and complicated. Because having this kind of direct, personal vision from God, that's one thing. But trying to talk about it, as a woman in the 14th century, oh, that was a whole different story. It was actually incredibly dangerous.
See, Julian was what they called an anchoress. And that means exactly what it sounds like. She was literally walled into a small room, a cell, attached to a church, for life. Now, on one hand, this gave her all the time in the world to think and pray on her visions. But on the other hand, it put her directly under the microscope of the church authorities.
And this is the real tension right here. What Julian had was like a direct personal download from the divine, no middleman. But the official church at the time, that's not how they like things to work. For them, faith was supposed to be guided, mediated through priests, through the sacraments, through officially approved things like relics. So for a woman to come along and say she had a direct line to God, well, she could easily be called crazy, or way, way worse, a heretic.
And one of her visions was really disturbing. She saw Christ's face, but it wasn't glorious at all. It was just wrecked, covered in spit and grime and blood. She describes in detail how half his face was just caked in dried blood that was changing color. I mean, this was not a comforting, peaceful image. It was dark, it was ugly, and it must have been so confusing.
So this is the core of her problem, right? How on earth do you share something so graphic, so personal, and so strange with the world? How do you explain the deep meaning you feel inside this horrible vision without getting shut down or accused of heresy? She needed a way to build a bridge from her private experience to the public approved faith everyone else shared.
And she found her answer in something that everyone at the time knew and loved, the legend of the Veronica. So the story goes like this. As Jesus is on his way to the crucifixion, a woman named Veronica bravely steps out from the crowd. She takes her veil and wipes the sweat and blood from his face. And when she pulls it away, a perfect image of his face is miraculously imprinted on the cloth.
Now, this kind of image has a really cool, fancy name, an achiereposeton. It's Greek for made without hands. And this is why the veil of Veronica was so perfect for Julian. Think about it. It was a physical thing that held a direct, unmediated image from God, and it was totally church-approved. It was the perfect public, sanctioned version of what she had experienced in private.
Okay, so this is where Julian has her big breakthrough. She realizes she can use this well-known, beloved story of the Veronica as a framework, as a way to explain her own disturbing vision. It was the key to turning an image of suffering into a message of healing.
But to really get it, we need one more piece of the puzzle. See, back in medieval times, people often believed that Veronica was the same person as another woman in the Bible, the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years, the hemorrhagia. And this connection is absolutely crucial.
Remember that story? The bleeding woman was healed just by having enough faith to reach out and touch the edge of Jesus' cloak? Well, the story of Veronica follows the exact same blueprint. You have someone who is suffering. They reach out in faith to touch something sacred, and that direct contact results in healing, in something miraculous.
And that was Julian's light bulb moment. She suddenly understood that her dark, bloody vision of Christ's face wasn't meant to be terrifying or a sign of despair. No, it was an invitation. It was a call for her and for everyone to do what Veronica did, to touch that suffering with faith and love, and in doing so, transform it into a source of healing for all.
So, by making this brilliant connection, she took something that was intensely personal and turned it into a universal message of hope that anyone could understand.
This is why you'll hear scholars talk about her creating a radically democratic theology. I mean, what a cool phrase, right? All it means is that she took her vision out of this exclusive, private, mystical world, and by tying it to a story everyone already knew, she made its hopeful message available to everybody. You didn't need a special education or a position in the church to get it. So her ultimate message was profound. It was that you don't have to turn away from the pain and the ugliness in the world to find God. Actually, she was saying the exact opposite, that the divine is right there, smack in the middle of our suffering. And if we can just reach out to it with compassion, that's where we find healing.
And all of this, her decades of thinking and praying on these visions, it all boils down to this one beautiful, powerful phrase she's so famous for today. It's really this incredible statement of trust, one that she earned by staring right into the face of suffering and finding God there anyway.
So Julian's whole journey was about figuring out how to interpret a powerful, really disturbing image in a way that could bring healing to people. And that kind of leaves us with a question for our own world, doesn't it? I mean, we are just bombarded with images all day long, and a lot of them are just as troubling as hers was. So the question is, how do we find the right way to look at them? To turn them from things that bring us down into things that can maybe lead to understanding and even hope.